Let's begin with an uncomfortable truth. Kindness, without sharpness, will make you prey in a world built for predators. You were taught to be kind, to stay humble, to be gentle, and you were told that somehow the world would reward you for it. That if you keep doing the right thing, someone out there will notice. That if you keep your heart pure, life will return the favor. But life isn't a fairy tale. And deep down, you know that. You've just never had the courage to admit it out loud. How many times have you tried to be the good one, only to be overlooked? How many times have you stayed silent to keep the peace, only to be disrespected? How many times have you held on to your principles and watched the cunning rise above you with a smile? The world does not reward goodness. It rewards awareness. And Machiavelli was one of the few brave enough to say it plainly. He didn't write The Prince to teach you how to be moral. He wrote it as a survival guide for those walking among wolves, trying to preserve their soul without losing their life. Machiavelli made it clear. Morality without strategy is stupidity wearing a saint's robe. Kindness, when unprotected, becomes a leash, a collar others can use to lead you anywhere they want. You are not wrong for being kind. You're wrong for believing that kindness alone earns you respect. Because in the eyes of the world, goodness without boundaries is nothing but an open invitation for exploitation. Ask yourself, the people you admire, the ones who've risen to power, did they get there through innocent intentions alone? Or did they get there by understanding human nature? By knowing when to be soft and when to be sharp, when to extend a hand and when to keep the knife behind their back? Machiavelli never taught you to be cruel. He taught you to stop being naive. He taught you not to walk into a game where you don't even know the rules. Because if you don't know how the game is played, you'll end up as a pawn in someone else's plan. Every time you stay quiet to keep the peace, every time you give without asking for anything in return, every time you tolerate what you shouldn't, you are silently telling the world, I am weak. Use me. But you can stop. Right now, you can choose not to be shaped by the world, but to start shaping it through intelligence. That's why you're here. Not to abandon your kindness, but to transform it into something no one dares to take advantage of. Let's make something clear. The problem isn't that you're good. The problem is that you don't know how to protect your goodness. You walk through life thinking everyone plays by the same rules, that people will treat you the way you treat them. That decency is contagious. But it's not. The world is not filled with like-minded souls. It's filled with opportunists, predators in polished shoes, manipulators with kind eyes, people who know exactly what to do with someone like you, someone generous, someone trusting, someone who can't imagine using others, and therefore can't recognize when they themselves are being used. You've become the ideal target, not because you're weak, but because you're transparent, predictable, safe. Machiavelli warned of this. He saw what many refuse to admit, that human nature, when cornered, isn't noble. It's calculated. That people, when given the chance, will choose advantage over ethics. And unless you understand this, you will continue to be a casualty of your own ideals. This isn't a call to become cynical. It's a call to become intelligent, to refine your kindness. To make it strategic, you don't need to betray your principles, but you need to stop presenting them on a silver platter for others to exploit. You need to learn how to read people, how to sense their motives before they're spoken, to recognize a smile that hides a knife, and to understand that being loved is not the same as being respected. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved." If you cannot be both, and you probably chose to be loved, to be accepted, to seem harmless. But let's be honest. What has that really earned you? Has it brought you admiration? Has it built your power? Has it made others think twice before crossing you? Or has it only taught you, again and again, that people will take what you give and disappear when you need it returned? Kindness, when it's not backed by presence, strength, and boundaries, doesn't inspire loyalty. It inspires entitlement. People don't respect what's always available, what's easy to get, what never says no. And when they don't respect you, they don't listen to you, they don't consider you, they don't protect you. They simply use you, not because they're monsters, but because you never taught them otherwise. So if you've been wondering why your good heart keeps getting broken, why your silence leads to disrespect, why your giving never seems to come back full circle, it's because you've mistaken kindness for a strategy. But it's not a strategy, not until you give it a spine, not until you combine it with awareness, discernment, and power. Machiavelli didn't say you have to stop being good. He said you have to stop being blind. You didn't just want people to like you. You were starving for it. Not love in its purest sense, but acceptance, approval, that quiet nod from the world that says, "You're good. You belong." You learn to survive by pleasing, by shrinking, by smoothing every edge of your personality just to avoid rejection. And over time, that survival strategy became your identity. You became the peacemaker, the agreeable one, the man who kept his thoughts polite, his voice low, and his presence predictable. You told yourself that made you kind, but in reality, it made you invisible. Because here's the brutal truth Machiavelli would whisper in your ear: the world is not ruled by the lovable, it is ruled by the unreadable. When you crave to be liked, you become soft in places that require steel. You compromise when you should hold your ground. You give second chances when silence would have spoken louder. And slowly, the world stops seeing you as a man to remember. It sees you as a man to use. Machiavelli wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose." And it wasn't a call to cruelty. It was a recognition of human nature. People follow those they can't fully predict, not those who give away their essence for free. When you lead with your need to be liked, you telegraph weakness. You let people know exactly what buttons to press, exactly how far they can push you. And worst of all, you let them believe that your kindness is endless, that they can disrespect you without consequence, because your approval-seeking heart will always come back for more. But approval is a prison, one built with compliments and locked with self-doubt. And the more you chase it, the further you drift from the man you were meant to become. Because here's what no one tells you: being liked is cheap. It costs nothing. But being respected, that's earned. That requires boundaries. That requires a backbone. That requires the willingness to walk away from any room that demands your silence as payment for love. So look at your life. Look at the places where you've given too much, where you've stayed too long, where you've tolerated too quietly, and ask yourself, was it kindness or was it fear? Because if you don't face that truth now, you'll keep reliving the same lesson. You'll keep smiling through disrespect, keep apologizing for your needs, keep hoping that one day someone will see your worth without you having to roar. But they won't. Not until you become the kind of man who doesn't need to be liked. Not until you become the kind of man who can be kind and still be feared. From a young age, you were told the same lie, that goodness would eventually be recognized, that if you stayed loyal, patient, honest, life would hand you the crown. But what they didn't tell you is that the world isn't watching. And if it is, it's not applauding your purity. It's calculating your usefulness, because the world, as Machiavelli saw it, doesn't move according to virtue. It moves according to leverage. Power isn't about what you intend. It's about what you can control. So let me ask you, where has your decency taken you? How many times have you done the right thing and watched someone more cunning, more ruthless, more aware of the game rise above you? It hurts, because part of you still wants to believe the myth that good guys finish first, that the truth always wins. But if you've lived long enough, you know that's not how the world works, because the world doesn't reward men who are morally good. It rewards men who are strategically good, men who can weaponize their presence, who know when to speak and when to vanish, who understand that appearances are often more valuable than authenticity. Machiavelli warned, it is not necessary to have all the virtues, but it is necessary to appear to have them, because appearance shapes perception, and perception shapes power. You may be the wisest man in the room, but if you can't control how others perceive you, if you seem soft when you're supposed to stand firm, if you appear desperate when you should be detached, you lose your influence. The manipulator thrives because he looks confident. The fool wins because he sounds certain. And the virtuous man, he waits, silently hoping someone will notice his worth. But the world rarely notices what doesn't demand its attention. That's why Machiavelli didn't just teach survival. He taught performance, the art of cultivating an image that commands respect. Even before you speak, the discipline to act with intent, not impulse, and above all, the courage to abandon the delusion that people are fair. They are not. They are emotional, reactive, drawn to charisma, mystery, dominance, not to purity. So if you want to stop being overlooked, you must stop hoping your goodness will be enough. You must become the kind of man whose silence has gravity, whose words are rare but sharp, whose presence makes others straighten their posture. Because in the end, it's not morality that rules the world. It's mastery. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched someone far less competent than you get ahead of you simply because they looked the part? Not because they were smarter, not because they worked harder, but because they mastered the art of presence. This is where most people lose the game before they even start. They think truth is enough, that being good at what you do will eventually speak for itself. But Machiavelli knew better. He said, it is not necessary to have all the virtues, but to appear to have them. That's not deception. That's strategy. Because in the eyes of the world, you are not what you are. You are what you appear to be. People don't see your inner character. They see your posture. They hear your tone. They read your confidence or your hesitation, and they make snap judgments based on surface impressions. So if you appear uncertain, they will treat you as uncertain. If you appear passive, they will overlook you. If you appear soft, they will challenge you. And it won't matter how good your heart is, or how capable you are behind closed doors. Because power isn't just about what's inside. It's about how well you translate it into the room. The truth is, people follow what they perceive as authority, even if it's a facade. And that's why the loudest, most confident fool often commands more attention than the silent, intelligent man, because he understands the one thing most good men never learn. You must master the narrative of yourself. You must learn to curate your presence, like a king curates his image, not to please others, but to shape the terms of how others engage with you. Because if you don't define your value, they will. And when they do, they will almost always undervalue you. You don't need to pretend, but you do need to present. Power Power is not just held. It's projected. Respect is not just earned. It's signaled. So stop hoping people will see your worth eventually. Start showing it intentionally. Machiavelli wasn't encouraging arrogance. He was telling you the truth that polite society tries to hide. That appearances rule perception, and perception shapes reality. It's not about becoming fake. It's about becoming undeniable. Power isn't always loud. In fact, the strongest people in the room often say the least, because what you say can be used against you, but what you withhold creates mystery, and mystery creates control. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote, "A prince must know how to conceal his intentions, not because deception is noble, but because transparency in the wrong hands is suicide." Most people think speaking up is power, that saying what's on your mind earns you respect, but often it earns you exposure. Because once people can predict your thoughts, your values, your next move, they gain leverage over you. And when you're predictable, you're no longer dangerous. You're manageable. Strategic silence isn't about pretending. It's about preserving your edge. It's about knowing what to reveal and what to keep buried. Think about it. How many times have you over-explained yourself, trying to be understood, only to feel misunderstood? Or worse, dismissed? How many times have you trusted someone too quickly, revealed too much, and watched that information come back to bite you? That's not honesty. That's poor self-defense. In a world full of watchers, those who control the flow of information control the board. Because the less people know about you, the more they're forced to respect the space around you, to wonder, to hesitate. And hesitation is power. You don't owe the world your thoughts. You don't owe explanations to people who haven't earned your truth. Every word you speak should carry weight. Every sentence should feel deliberate, measured, intentional. Because when you speak less, people lean in, they listen, they replay your words in their minds. Trying to find meaning between the lines, that is influence. The man who talks endlessly is cheap, forgettable, replaceable. But the man who knows how to pause, who lets silence do the heavy lifting, that man carries presence. Strategic silence is not weakness. It is the armor of those who refuse to be read too easily. So stop filling the air with noise. Stop giving people the full map of who you are. Leave gaps. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Because when no one knows exactly what you think, no one can control you. And that is the kind of power no one dares to challenge. If people can predict you, they can control you. It's that simple. Machiavelli didn't just study power. He studied fear. And he discovered something that history proves time and time again. Predictable men are expendable. But the unpredictable are dangerous. You see, when people know how you'll react, they can plan around you, they can manipulate your emotions, they can trap you using your own patterns. You become a puppet, pulled by invisible strings, not because they're smarter, but because you've made yourself easy to read. Think of how many times you've responded the same way. To pressure, to rejection, to disrespect, to conflict. And think of how easily others exploited that consistency, because they could count on you to be safe, to be soft, to be scared of surprise. But here's the shift. The moment you become unpredictable, the power dynamic flips. They don't know whether you'll stay or walk away, whether you'll forgive or disappear, whether you'll respond with calm or with cold indifference. And that uncertainty, that psychological tension, creates distance, creates respect, creates space for you to operate on your terms. Because people don't fear the cruel. They fear the unreadable, the one who can't be boxed in, the one who smiles without revealing intent, the one who doesn't react the way they expect, the one who can go quiet and leave them guessing. Unpredictability isn't chaos. It's calculated mystery. It's keeping just enough of yourself hidden that no one ever truly knows where you stand. Because when they can't predict you, they can't prepare for you. And when they can't prepare for you, they hesitate. And he who makes others hesitate commands the game. So break your patterns. Refuse to be defined by your past behavior. Say no when they expect yes. Disappear when they expect presence. Speak only when silence would be safer. Because your unpredictability is not confusion. It is control. It is a shield. And sometimes, it's the only thing standing between you and being devoured. Machiavelli didn't tell you to become chaotic. He told you to become untouchable. And untouchable begins when you stop being predictable. Let me give you one of the most misunderstood truths about power. Respect is not built by showing up all the time. Respect is built when your absence creates impact. We've been conditioned to believe that being available, being responsive, being ever present is a sign of value. But Machiavelli warned otherwise. He understood that too much familiarity breeds contempt, and that scarcity increases worth. If you are always around, always answering, always giving, always accessible, then your presence becomes ordinary, expected, taken for granted, and what's expected is never appreciated. You see it in relationships. You see it at work. You see it in every human dynamic. The one who chases, the one who over-delivers, the one who never steps back, is the one who is most often forgotten. Not because they weren't valuable, but because they never made their value felt through distance. Machiavelli taught that a leader must never become too familiar, not because they should act superior, but because mystique créate révérence. The more they see you, the more they believe they've figured you out. And once they believe that, they stop respecting your boundaries. But when you pull back, when you disappear deliberately, when you're not the first to reply, not the one always reaching out, not the one always ready to give, something shifts. They begin to notice the silence. They feel the absence. They question what changed. And in that questioning, you rise in value. Your time becomes a privilege. Your words become rare. Your attention becomes weighty. Because now, your presence isn't casual. It's intentional. Look around. The most powerful figures in history were never those who showed up to every debate, every event, every conflict. They chose their moments. And in doing so, they made the world wait for their voice. And when they spoke, the world listened. That is strategic distance. And it's not about isolation. It's about elevation. Because when you're always visible, you're always vulnerable. But when you manage your exposure, when you decide when and how people experience you, you no longer beg for respect. You command it. So stop fearing absence. Stop thinking you'll be forgotten if you pull back. Because if the only reason you're remembered is because you're always available, then you were never respected to begin with. The ones who leave impact aren't the ones who scream the loudest. They're the ones who show up like thunder, rare, intentional, and unforgettable. Let's talk about the most underestimated form of power, Emotional control. You've been taught to express yourself, to speak your truth, to let it out. But the harsh reality is, every reaction you give is a window into your weaknesses. And those who seek power, they're watching, they're listening, they're taking notes. Because the moment you lose your temper, you've already lost the upper hand. Machiavelli knew this. He didn't just teach strategy. He taught restraint. He believed that a ruler must act with calculation, not with passion, not with impulse. Because the man who cannot control his emotions can never control outcomes. Think back. The last time you snapped, the last time someone triggered you, and you responded in anger or fear or desperation, who had the power in that moment? Not you. It was the person who made you react. The one who knocked you off balance and pulled the strings without ever raising their voice. That's what emotional control protects you from. It protects your image, your position, your influence. Because the one who remains centered, when everyone else loses their composure, becomes the one everyone starts to watch. Why? Because calm in chaos looks like leadership, and leadership draws respect. In any negotiation, in any conflict, the one who can stay quiet when provoked, still when insulted, unshaken when challenged, is the one who cannot be manipulated. Machiavelli wasn't telling you not to feel. He was telling you not to bleed in front of those who would use it against you. Your emotions are sacred, but your reactions are a public display of where you're still weak. So, start paying attention to the rise in your chest, to the heat in your face, to the tightening of your voice when pride is wounded. Because if they can touch those nerves, they can control your next move. But if they can't, they lose all leverage. Mastering your emotion doesn't make you cold. It makes you dangerous. It means you can see clearly when others are blinded by rage. It means you make decisions from strength, not from ego, not from fear. It means your presence brings gravity, not noise. So next time someone tries to provoke you, pause, breathe, smile, if you must, but never give them the satisfaction of watching you fall out of your center. Because in the end, it's not the loudest voice that wins. It's the calmest mind, the one that doesn't flinch, the one that doesn't react, the one that quietly owns the storm while everyone else drowns in it. Power doesn't always belong to the one who moves first. It belongs to the one who moves best. In a world addicted to speed, everyone wants results now. They rush, they react, they move out of fear that if they wait, they'll lose. But Machiavelli understood a deeper truth. The true strategist doesn't chase. He waits, he studies, he watches, he lets others reveal themselves. Because he knows the first strike isn't the most important. The precise strike is. Think of a hunter. He doesn't fire at the first sound in the woods. He waits until the prey is in perfect range. One shot, one decision, one move that changes everything. That's what strategic patience gives you. It gives you leverage. It gives you clarity. It gives you time to see the full board before you make your move. The average person reacts out of urgency, but the man who can sit in the tension, who can hold his fire, who can let the moment build, is the man everyone fears, because his silence is not weakness. It's calculation. His stillness is not indecision. It's preparation. Machiavelli said, "Fortune favors those who know how to adapt." And adaptation requires one skill above all: timing. You don't need to speak first. You don't need to defend yourself instantly. You don't need to act just to prove you're doing something. You need to wait until the chaos settles, until the noise clears, until the opportunity becomes undeniable. And when that moment comes, you don't hesitate. You move with precision, with purpose, with presence. That's how you break through. That's how you win without shouting. That's how you dominate without rushing. Because true influence isn't about constant motion. It's about decisive impact. So I ask you, will you keep acting on impulse like the rest? Or will you train yourself to wait, to see, to know when your moment is near, and strike in a way that no one saw coming? Because power does not belong to the loud. It belongs to the disciplined, to the intentional, to the one who knows that timing is everything. Now you know. You understand why kindness alone was never enough. Why being liked never earned you power. Why being available, predictable, emotional, only made you easier to use. You weren't weak. You were just unarmed. No one ever taught you that silence could be strength. That distance could create desire. That unpredictability could be more feared than confrontation. That image isn't vanity, it's leverage. That emotions, when unchecked, can become your own chains. That timing is power. But now you've seen the full map, and the question isn't whether you understand it. The real question is, are you willing to become the anomaly? Because if you go back to playing the old game, to chasing approval, explaining yourself, reacting to every move, you will drown in a system built to devour the obedient. This world wasn't made to reward virtue. It rewards the ones who know how to move unseen, how to carry stillness like a weapon, how to make their presence rare, their thoughts unreadable, and their choices calculated. Stop being easy to understand. Stop being easy to reach. Stop being easy to control. You are no longer here to prove that you're a good person. You are here to live with intelligence, with clarity, with power. Let others keep chasing noise. Let others drown in approval. You move differently now, because from this moment on, you are not just in the game. You understand the game, and more than that, you know how to bend it in your favor. So tell me, which principle will you apply first? Which behavior ends today? Which part of you will no longer be used by others? Comment below. I'm reading every word, because this isn't just a monologue. This is a movement. And if this message cut deep, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Not because I asked, but because now you see the world differently. And that vision deserves to grow stronger.